Have you ever noticed how the same situation can devastate you one day, yet barely touch you another? How a comment from a stranger can echo in your mind for weeks, while similar words spoken at a different time simply pass through you like wine through an open window. There's something profound happening here, something the Buddha spent his life illuminating. He called it Avijjā, the invisible veil. And right now, in this very moment, it's shaping every single thing you're experiencing. The question isn't whether you're seeing through this veil, we all are. The question is, are you ready to recognize it? Part 1, The Invisible Veil That Colors Everything, Understanding Avijjā. Let me tell you about something that happened to me last Tuesday. I was sitting in a coffee shop, working on my laptop, when someone at the next table started speaking loudly on their phone. My first thought, how inconsiderate. Don't they see other people are trying to work? Then came the tightness in my chest. The irritation. The mental loop of judgment. But here's what's fascinating, I wasn't just annoyed by the noise. I was annoyed by what the noise meant, about them, about me, about respect, about my right to a quiet space. In seconds, a simple sound had become a complex story of identity, territory, and offense. This is what the Buddha meant by papanka, conceptual proliferation. One sensation, countless interpretations layered upon it, each one taking us further from what's actually happening. The many faces we wear. Buddhist teachings reveal something remarkable. We create many different senses of self throughout the day, like tools we pick up and put down. You wake up as the tired person who needs coffee. You become the competent professional at work. You transform into the good parent, or the loving partner, or the spiritual seeker. Each identity feels solid, real, defining, until it doesn't. Think about your own day. How many different yous showed up? The confidence you showed in handling that meeting brilliantly. The insecure you who wondered if you said the wrong thing. The wise you who advised a friend. The lost you who don't know what they're doing with their life. The Buddha's teaching of anatta challenges the notion of a solid, permanent I that needs protection and definition. This isn't about denying that you exist. You're clearly here, watching this video, breathing, experiencing. It's about recognizing that what you call I is more like a river than a rock, constantly flowing, never the same twice. When identity becomes a prison. I once spoke with a woman who said, "I'm just an anxious person. I've always been this way. It's who I am." She wore her anxiety like a name tag. It had become so central to her identity that letting it go felt like losing herself. This is the trap. When we identify with our anxiety, our anger, our sadness, when we say, "I am this," we give these temporary experiences permanent housing. We turn visitors into residents. We mistake the weather for the sky. Think about something you strongly identify with right now. Perhaps it's your role as a parent, your career, your political beliefs, your spiritual journey. Now ask yourself, if this were taken away tomorrow, who would you be? That question might feel terrifying. Good. That terror is showing you where you've built your identity prison. And recognizing the prison is the first step toward freedom. The teaching is clear. If we create a fixed view of who or what we are, we limit ourselves and keep creating suffering. But if we see that we can create many senses of self and learn to use them as tools, we'll be in charge of our happiness. Part 2, The Two Arrows of Suffering, Why We Hurt Ourselves Twice. There's a teaching that changed my relationship with suffering forever. It's called the parable of the two arrows, and it might be one of the most practical pieces of wisdom the Buddha ever shared. The first arrow strikes. Imagine you're walking through a forest when suddenly an arrow strikes your arm. The pain is immediate, real, and unavoidable. This is the first arrow, the actual pain of life, whether physical or emotional. Your parent dies. Your relationship ends. You get sick. You lose your job. Someone criticizes you. Your body ages. Life, being life, shoots these arrows. The Buddha taught that when touched with a feeling of pain, the uninstructed person sorrows, grieves, laments, beats their breast, and becomes distraught, feeling two pains, physical and mental, just as if they were shot with one arrow and then immediately shot with another. The second arrow, the one we shoot ourselves. But here's where it gets interesting. The first arrow hurts, yes. But the second arrow? That's the one that truly devastates us. The second arrow represents our reaction to the pain, our resistance to it. How can this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? Why me? Let me share something vulnerable. A few years ago, I went through a painful breakup. The first arrow, the actual loss of the relationship, the grief, the loneliness, that was hard enough. But the second arrow I shot at myself, they were brutal. I'm unlovable. I always ruin good things. I'll be alone forever. Everyone else finds love except me. There's something fundamentally wrong with me. Each thought was another arrow. And unlike the first arrow, which life shot at me, these arrows, I was shooting them at myself, over and over. Each one is digging deeper. The difference between pain and suffering. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. I know that might sound harsh at first. You're thinking, but I don't choose to suffer. And you're right, not consciously. But suffering arises from resistance. From the stories we tell about the pain. From our refusal to accept what already is. Think about a situation where someone leaves dirty dishes on the counter. The first arrow might be the annoyance at the inconvenience. But then come the second arrows, they never respect my space. If they loved me, they'd be more considerate. This always happens. I'm not valued in this house. Suddenly, unwashed dishes have become a relationship crisis. This isn't to minimize real pain. The death of a loved one, chronic illness, trauma, these are genuine first arrows that cause deep suffering. The teaching isn't about denying that pain. It's about recognizing which suffering is unavoidable and which we're adding ourselves. The practice of watching your arrows. Here's an invitation. For the next 24 hours, try to catch yourself shooting second arrows. When you're stuck in traffic, notice the first arrow, the inconvenience, and the second arrow, the story about how this always happens to you, how you're going to be late, how everyone else is a terrible driver. When someone speaks sharply to you, notice the first arrow, the sting of their tone, and the second arrow, they don't like you, you did something wrong, you're always messing up relationships. When your body aches, notice the first arrow, the physical sensation, and the second arrow, this means you're getting old, you're falling apart, you should have taken better care of yourself. We probably deal with second arrows many times during the day. The story is not about denying our initial reaction or pretending we're immune to pain. It's about having a choice in how to proceed. The Buddha taught that the well-instructed disciple, when touched by painful feelings, does not sorrow, grieve, or lament, does not beat their breast or become distraught, and thus feels only one pain, physical, not mental. This is the freedom available to us. Not freedom from pain, that's not possible in a human life, but freedom from the multiplication of pain through resistance and stories. Before we continue, I want to pause for just a moment. If this message is resonating with you, if you're beginning to see the invisible veils in your own life, would you consider hitting that like button? And more importantly, I'd love to hear your experience in the comments below. When have you caught yourself shooting that second arrow? Your insights might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you'd like to receive more of these healing teachings, please subscribe to Buddha Coha. These stories are designed to bring ancient Buddhist wisdom into our modern lives, offering comfort and clarity right where you are. Okay, let's continue. Part 3, Right View, the practice of seeing clearly, Sammā-Diṭṭhi. Now we come to the heart of it all. If Avijjā is the veil that obscures clear perception, and if our resistance shoots second arrows, then what's the path forward? How do we actually learn to see clearly? The Buddha called it Sammā-Diṭṭhi, right view. But this isn't about having the correct opinion or believing the right things. The word Sammā translates to something like completed, perfected, fulfilled. Right view is learning to see things as they actually are, not as we imagine them to be. The transformation that changes everything. Right view develops in two stages. First, the conceptual understanding that accords with the truths, and second, the experiential wisdom that penetrates the truths. Let me explain with a simple example. You can intellectually understand that fire is hot. You can study the chemistry of combustion, memorize temperatures, and read accounts of people who've been burned. That's conceptual understanding. But the moment you actually touch fire, that's experiential wisdom. Your entire being knows, without question, without doubt, that fire burns. You don't need to remember it or remind yourself. Your perception has been fundamentally transformed. This is what happens with the right view. The three characteristics hidden in plain sight. Right view develops by understanding three fundamental characteristics of all existence: anicca, impermanence; dukkha, the unsatisfactory nature of clinging; and anatta, non-self. Let me share how I stumbled into understanding this, not through study, but through direct experience. I was sitting by a river, watching the water flow. Such a cliché, right? But something shifted in my perception. I saw that the river wasn't really a thing at all. It was a word I used for an ever-changing process. The water I was looking at now was already gone, replaced by new water that would itself be gone in moments. Then I looked at my hand. Really looked. And I realized, this hand is the same. Cells are dying, new cells forming. The skin that was here 7 years ago is completely gone. Every atom is exchanged with my environment. What I call my hand is as much a process as the river. Then came the bigger realization, my thoughts are the same. This idea I'm thinking right now, where did it come from? It arose from causes and conditions. It will pass. Another thought will replace it. What I call my mind is a river too. When nothing sticks anymore. The Buddha described right view as a transformation where one doesn't get involved with or cling to attachments, clingings, or obsessions. There's no uncertainty or doubt that when suffering arises, it's just suffering arising, and when it passes away, it's just suffering passing away. This might sound abstract, so let me make it concrete. Remember that loud phone talker in the coffee shop I mentioned earlier? After practicing for a while, something shifted. The next time someone was loud near me, I noticed the sound. I noticed a brief flash of preference for quiet. And then, nothing. No story. No identity crisis. No second arrow. The sound was just sound. My preference was just a preference. Neither needed to become a drama. This is the freedom of right view. Not that you become robotic or emotionless, but that you stop building prisons out of moments. You stop fortifying a self that needs defending. The practice of observing without grasping. Here's a practice you can try right now. Close your eyes for a. Just observe your thoughts. Don't try to control them. Don't judge them. Just watch. You'll notice thoughts appearing. This is silly. I'm not doing it right. What's for dinner? I need to call my mom. This is kind of interesting, actually. Now ask yourself, where are these thoughts coming from? Who's thinking them? Can you find a thinker separate from the thoughts themselves? If you do this honestly, you'll find something strange. Thoughts just arise. They come from conditions, your memories, your worries, your physical state, the last thing you heard. But there's no little CEO in your head making decisions about which thoughts to think. This is an anatta in direct experience. Whether we look at the body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, or consciousness, for each one of these, there is nothing there that can be called a permanent, unchanging self. Part 4, Living from Clear Seeing, Bringing Wisdom into Daily Life. So we've talked about the invisible veil, the two arrows, and right view. But how do we actually live this? How does ancient wisdom translate into your Tuesday morning when you're running late and your car won't start? The pause between stimulus and response. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This space, this gap, is where right view lives in daily life. Your coworker criticizes your work. That's the stimulus. What happens next? For most of us, it's instant, defensiveness, hurt, anger, self-doubt. The second arrow flies automatically. But what if you could create a pause? Just a breath. Just enough space to see, criticism has arrived. My body is reacting. I feel hot. My jaw is tight. Thoughts are arising. They always pick on me. I'm not good enough. These are second arrows. Let me not shoot them. In that pause, you haven't become a doormat. You haven't pretended the criticism doesn't sting. You've simply recognized the difference between pain and the stories about pain. When your identity gets challenged. Here's something that used to wreck me. I deeply identified as a good person. Someone kind. Someone who helps others. Someone spiritual, for heaven's sake. So when I inevitably acted in ways that contradicted this identity, when I was impatient, when I was selfish, when I was petty, it created a crisis. How could I do that? I'm not that kind of person. But the teaching of anatta helped me see that this sense of self is constantly shifting. Sometimes I'd feel better than others, then worse than equal to. If the self were really solid, how could these contradictory views exist? Now, when I act in ways I'm not proud of, there's still remorse. There's still motivation to do better. But there's not that existential crisis. Because I'm not trying to maintain a fixed identity. I'm a process, not a product. This is enormously freeing. It means you can acknowledge your mistakes without your whole sense of self collapsing. You can receive feedback without it feeling like a fundamental attack on who you are. When clarity becomes compassion. Here's something beautiful that happens when you start seeing clearly. Compassion naturally arises. Not forced compassion. Not should compassion. But organic, genuine compassion. Think about the person who hurt you. For so long, you've seen them through the lens of that hurt, through the veil of your story about what they did and what it meant. But what if you looked at them with the right view? You'd see someone also caught in their own suffering. Someone is also shooting second arrows at themselves. Someone is also building prisons of identity and defending them desperately. This doesn't excuse harm. It doesn't mean you have to trust them or let them hurt you again. But it changes something fundamental in how you hold the experience. Instead of carrying the weight of resentment, which is just more second arrows, you see clearly, they acted from their conditioning. They acted from their pain. Just like you do. Just like we all do. And in that clear seeing, the weight begins to lift. Part 5. The liberation of letting go, freedom that's always available. We're coming to the end of our journey together, but really, this is where the practice truly begins. Because everything we've talked about, the invisible veil, the two arrows, right view, it all points to one essential invitation: let go. What does it mean to let go? People misunderstand this teaching constantly. They think letting go means not caring, becoming passive, giving up. But that's not it at all. Letting go means releasing your grip on how things must be for you to be okay. It means loosening your identification with the roles you play, the stories you tell, the self you're trying to maintain. Think of it like this: you're holding a hot coal. The letting go isn't apathy, it's wisdom. It's recognizing that holding on is causing you pain, and opening your hand. The story of the monk and the river. There's an old story about two monks traveling together. They came to a river where a young woman stood, unable to cross because of the strong current. Without hesitation, the older monk picked her up, carried her across, and set her down on the other side. The monks continued walking. An hour passed. 2 hours. Finally, the younger monk burst out, "How could you do that? You know our vows prohibit us from touching women." The older monk replied gently, "I put her down hours ago, junior brother. Why are you still carrying her? This is what we do. We pick up every slight, every disappointment, every moment when life didn't meet our expectations. And we carry them. Hour after hour. Year after year. Building the weight until we can barely move. When you see clearly, nothing bothers you. Now we can understand the title of this teaching fully. When you see clearly, really see, with right view, without the veil of Avijjā, nothing bothers you. Not because you've become indifferent to life. Not because you've transcended human feeling. But because bothered requires a solid self that can be threatened. It requires a story about what something means. It requires resistance to what is. When you see clearly that the self is empty, that thoughts are just thoughts, that feelings are just feelings, that everything is impermanent and arising from conditions, what is there to be bothered? The traffic jam is just cars moving slowly. The criticism just sounds like a certain pattern. The loss is just a change happening, as change always does. The fear is just sensation and thought, appearing and disappearing like clouds. This is the freedom available to you. Not someday, after years of meditation in a cave. But now, In this moment. In the midst of your messy, beautiful, complicated life. Conclusion, the invitation to freedom. So here we are, at the end of our time together. But really, you're at the beginning. You now understand that there's an invisible veil coloring everything you see. You know that you've been shooting second arrows at yourself, multiplying your pain unnecessarily. You've been introduced to right view, the practice of seeing things as they actually are. But understanding isn't enough. It never is. The Buddha didn't teach a philosophy. He taught a practice. A way of training the mind, moment by moment, to see more clearly. To let go more fully. To be free more completely. Your practice going forward. Start small. You don't need to have a profound spiritual awakening tomorrow. You just need to catch one second arrow before you shoot it. Notice one moment where you're building a story instead of seeing what's actually here. Create one pause between stimulus and response. And as you practice, be gentle with yourself. This is a profound undoing of deeply conditioned patterns. You'll forget. You'll shoot second arrows. You'll get caught in stories. That's not failure, that's the practice. Each time you recognize you're caught, you're seeing clearly. Each time you let go, even for a moment, you're tasting freedom. The path is already beneath your feet. You don't need to go anywhere to begin this practice. You don't need special circumstances or perfect conditions. The path is already beneath your feet. The practice is in this very moment, in how you're relating to your experience right now. Are you fighting with reality? Soften. Are you building stories? Come back to direct experience. Are you defending a self? Remember it's empty, fluid, free. A final blessing. May you see clearly, through the veil of confusion, to the truth that liberates. May you recognize the second arrow before it multiplies your pain. May you hold your sense of self lightly, like a tool you can pick up and put down at will. May you know the freedom that comes from letting go. And may you walk this path with compassion for yourself and all beings, knowing that we're all just trying to escape suffering, all building our prisons and, with wisdom and courage, learning to walk through the doors that were never really locked. When you see clearly, nothing bothers you, not because nothing matters, but because everything matters so much that you can finally hold it all with an open hand. This is the Buddha's gift to you. The invitation to freedom. Not in some distant future, but here, now, in this precious, impermanent moment. Will you accept it? Thank you so much for being here, for opening your heart and mind to these ancient yet eternally relevant teachings. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to Buddha Coha so these teachings can continue to find you when you need them most. Share this video with someone who might be struggling, who might be caught in their own second arrows, who might be ready to see through the veil. And I truly want to hear from you. In the comments below, share one insight you're taking from this teaching. What invisible veil are you beginning to see? What second arrow are you ready to stop shooting? Your reflection might be the exact medicine someone else needs today. Remember, you're not alone on this path. We're all walking toward the same freedom, supporting each other, learning to see clearly together. Until next time, may you be at peace. May you see clearly. And may nothing truly bother you, because you've discovered the vast, unshakable space you really are. With deep respect and compassion, Buddha Coha.